Exercise 9.6, solving right triangles. These are mainly word problems. Like I said in the previous lesson, you guys are going to have word problems on your test without a diagram. So you're going to have to draw them by yourself. However, we're kind of backtracking here. Inverse trigonometric ratios. So we kind of know what these are. Please don't say -1. It is not called the -1. It is called the inverse tangent. Okay, so the inverse tangent, whatever, inverse sine, inverse cosine. That's what you're using to solve for the angle. Okay, that's what you're using to solve for your angle. So please understand it's not called -x, it's called the inverse of. Okay, the inverse tangent, inverse sine, inverse cosine. So now we know what it's called. Let's go ahead and look at this example. It says, draw a diagram showing a person who is 1.5 meters tall, standing 20 meters from the base of the building. Also show that the person sights the top of the building with an angle of elevation of 58. Okay, find the height of the building. So you will have questions like this on your test. You are required to draw a diagram. You cannot answer this question without drawing a diagram. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes just to draw what you think this says. I need to see a diagram on your page. Go ahead and start drawing this diagram according to what it says, and then we're going to solve it. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to draw your diagram. Go ahead, please. All right, you guys should have attempted to draw this. I'm going to go ahead and go over it, read it again, and I'm going to kind of go through it as I'm reading it. It says, draw a diagram showing a person who is 1.5 meters tall. So I'm going to first go ahead and draw my person. Here is my person. And the height of my person is 1.5 meters. The person's 1.5 meters tall, standing 20 meters from the base of the building. So here, I'll move it up so you guys can see it. Here's my building. There's my little hotel building. That person is 20 meters from my building. Then it says, also show that the person sights the top of the building with an angle of elevation of 58 degrees. That means I am sighting that building from my line of sight. Angle of elevation. Here is the person's line of sight. This is my angle of elevation. That means this angle is going to be 58 degrees. Let's just say this is the top of my building. Find the height of the building. They're asking me to find this entire thing right here. And what do I know? I know that this is also 20 meters. And I know that at least up to here is 1.5 meters. Now I need to find the remaining height of my building. So, knowing the rule of SOHCAHTOA, what am I going to use to find this remaining height right here? Let's call it x. All right, so what am I using? What do I have? I have my angle, I have my adjacent side, and I have my opposite side. I'm not using any of my heights, so I'm going to go ahead and use tan. I'm taking tangent 58 equals opposite over adjacent. So I'm multiplying both sides by 20. Plugging this into your calculator, 20 times tan 58, what are you going to get for x? Yes. Good, 32. However, 32 is not the height of my building. 32 is a piece of my building. So in order for me to solve the rest, I have to add 32 plus 1.5, and what would that equal? Anybody? 33.5 feet is my height. And that is my answer. Questions on this one? Again, drawing the diagram is super important for you to understand the question. All right, looking at this one again, it's another word problem. I need you guys to draw it as best as you can. It says, When the sun's angle of elevation is 38 degrees, a building casts a shadow of 45 meters. How high is the building? Go ahead and draw that one. I'm going to give you a minute, and then we'll go ahead and solve it. All right, check in to make sure you drew it correctly. Please pay attention to how mine is drawn. Okay, this is the sun's angle of elevation is 38 degrees. A building casts a shadow. So here's my building. Let's just put circle windows. Here's my sun. Angle of elevation. This is my angle of elevation, which is 38 degrees, and it casts a shadow that is 45 meters. This is what it should look like. We're trying to find the height of my building, which I'm representing as X. And again, I know I'm using my SOHCAHTOA. Looking at it, what am I using? Do I have my hypotenuse? Am I solving for my hypotenuse? Yes or no? No, I'm not. So I don't need anything that has hypotenuse in it. So no sine, no cosine. I'm going to go ahead and use tangent. Solving, I'm going to have tan 38 equals opposite, which is my x, over my adjacent side, which is 45. Solving for x, I'm multiplying both sides by 45. These are going to cancel out. Plugging this into your calculator, 45 tan 38. What would you get for x rounded to the nearest tenth? Good. So the height of my building is 35.2 meters. Again, please make sure you know how to draw your diagrams. All right, when something says solve a right triangle, that does not just mean solve for whatever you need. There's a specific thing for this one. If it says solve a right triangle, that means to find all unknown sides and angles. Keep in mind, again, it is all of them, all your side lengths, and all your angles, not just one, not just two, all of whatever is missing. So please understand that if it says solve a right triangle, you need to find all unknown sides and lengths, side lengths, and angles. Please remember that because you have to find all of them, not just one. With that being said, look at example number 3. It says solve the right triangle. Round your decimal answers to the nearest tenth. I need you guys to be aware of these questions. Please pay attention, because if you're solving this incorrectly, even if you're a tenth off, your answer is going to be wrong. Only use the given information. Meaning, if you're solving for a specific side, if I'm solving for a side, let's say this side, and I answered B, C, I solved here, and I'm using these two pieces of information, you're going to be a tenth off. Some a tenth, maybe a digit off. Please only use the given information. Do not use information that you solved for and then you're deciding to plug it in. Do not plug in. Only use what's given. So 3 things you need to find. 1 is you have to solve for angle B. Then you have to solve, we'll call this X, and we'll call this Y. You have to find the missing information. I'm going to give you guys some time to solve for these. Go ahead and solve it on your own, and then we're going to check. All right, looking at this question, angle B should have been the easiest one to solve for first. So if I'm trying to find the measure of angle B, all you have to do is, because it's a right triangle, your 2 acute angles add to equal 90. So all I'm doing is 90 minus 42, and that's going to give me 48 degrees for angle B. So I'm going to go ahead and write that one in here. This is 48 degrees. And then again, I'm going to go ahead and solve for x and y. And I'm only using this 42. So looking at this 42, what do I have? I have my hypotenuse, I have my opposite side, and I have my adjacent side. And knowing that, let's say I'm going to write my SOHCAHTOA. And I'm going to go ahead and determine what I'm using. I'm going to go ahead and solve for x first. So if I'm solving for x, according to that 42, again, I'm only using what was given. I have my adjacent side, and I'm solving for my hypotenuse. So I'm going to use cosine. So I have cosine 42 equals 70, my adjacent side, over my hypotenuse. And solving, again with practice, if your variable's on your denominator, you're solving it as, we'll represent it as x equals 70 over cosine 42. And if you solved it correctly, your x is going to equal 94.2 feet. To round it to the nearest tenth, that's what I did. So this is 94.2. And then solving for what's left, which is my purple side, my y. I have my adjacent side and my opposite side according to my 42, which is my tangent. So I'm going to have tan 42 is equal to opposite over adjacent, multiplying both sides by 70. I'm then going to get, solving in my calculator, my y is going to equal 63 feet. So y equals 63. Okay, any questions with this one? Again, key thing here is only use what was given. Do not use anything else. Looking at example number 4, it says, suppose your school is building a rake stage. This stage will be 30 feet long from the front to the back with a total rise of 2 feet. A raked, meaning angle of elevation, of 5 degrees or less is generally preferred for the safety and comfort of the actors. Is the rake stage you are building within the range suggested? So I need to solve. According to what I'm building, is my angle 5 degrees or less? So looking at the diagram, again, we are going to use that SOHCAHTOA. And looking at what I have, looking at my diagram, what did they give me? What are they giving me according to my angle? Here is my angle. What do I have? Yes. I have my opposite side on my hypotenuse, so I'm not using cosine. I'm not using tangent. I'm going to go ahead and use sine. So writing it out, I'm going to have sine x, because I don't know my angle, equals my opposite side over my hypotenuse. And because I'm solving for my angle, what do I have to use? Good, I have to use that inverse. So plugging it into your calculator, you have the inverse sine. And then 2 over 30, go ahead and plug it into your calculator. What would you get rounded to the nearest tenth? What is the degree? What is the degree of my stage if I built it this way? Yes. Good. X, or my angle, is 3.8. Is that within the range? Yes. Yes, it is. All right, this is an extra question. It says solve the right triangle. You need to solve for everything. What do we have? You need to solve for your x, which I'm going to represent as my missing side. Then you also need to solve for your angles. I have this angle here, and I have this angle right here. Go ahead and solve those, and then we're going to check your work. Again, please be aware of this question, guys. If you're not using what was given, you will be a 10th off for some of your answers. So please only use what's given when solving. Don't plug in or anything else, just use what's given. All right, most important thing for this was that you only used what was given. Okay, you cannot use anything else for what you're solving for. So I'm going to go ahead and solve for my angles first. So I'm going to use my SOHCAHTOA. And I'm going to go ahead and solve for angle A. So looking at what's given, according to angle A, what do I have? I have my adjacent side and I have my hypotenuse. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm using cosine. So I have cosine angle A is equal to 14 over 16. And because I'm solving for that angle, I have to use the inverse. So in your calculator, it should look something like this. And you should have plugged that in correctly. If you did, angle A equals 29 degrees. I just rounded it to the nearest whole number. Okay, so this is 29 degrees right here. Finding angle B, you could do two things. Still use your SOHCAHTOA, or the measure of angle B is going to be 90 minus 29. If you subtract it correctly, angle B should have been 61. I got some questions. Can I use my angles to solve for X? No. Why? Because these were already approximated. These were already estimated. Unless you're giving me, let's say, to the thousandths place in decimals, your answer for X is going to be about a 10th off. So how am I solving for that X with only using the given information? This is a right triangle. So I can use my Pythagorean theorem. I have my A, I have my, let's call this my B, and then my C is my hypotenuse. So setting it up, I'm going to have 14 squared plus x squared equals 16 squared. And solving for my x, I have 196 plus x squared equals 256. Subtracting 196 from both sides, I'm going to have x squared equals 60, square rooting my x, and your x should equal 7.7. If you got 7.8, it's wrong. Okay, you would have been a 10th off, and that's using your 29 and 61, but you're not using 29 and 61. Again, 29 and 61 were already estimated, so you have to only use what's given, which was your sides. Yes? What do you mean using the exact one? Two. For this one, decimal, but if you have, it will to give you your directions will tell you if it wants it in exact. It'll say write in simplest or write it exact, then you will go ahead and write it as exact. But for now, we just left it as a decimal form. But please understand that you're only using what's given. Do not use information you solved for.